Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the FCC. And just because there are events happening in Europe doesn't mean the discussion over democracy and the future of Hong Kong isn't as important. And today we have two very visible and important faces of the democracy movement. Nathan Law and Joshua Wong are here to talk about their vision of Hong Kong in the future. I could give you a long resume for most people who come and talk at the club, but for Nathan and Joshua, it's pretty simple. They're students. They still go to school, and politics is their summer job. It's wonderful to see them rock up today with a backpack and their cell phones. That's the way they do their business. And I did ask Joshua whether these guys were close friends, and, well, Joshua said, "We're best friends. We were arrested together the first time." So it's my pleasure to introduce both Joshua and Nathan. Nathan will speak first, then we'll have Joshua speak, and we hope to have plenty of time for Q&A.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nathan Law, chairman of Demosisto. As a young political activist in Hong Kong, I would still consider myself new in politics, although we have many new rising parties these days. Ever since my days as a student representative during the Umbrella Movement, I aimed at fostering change with actions rather than words. My political compass is directed by the same passion and conscience which motivated me to be involved in the Umbrella Movement in the first place. It's not easy, but I'm determined to bring about social and political reforms. To me, it all began 6 years ago. In the 2010 Nobel Prize Award ceremony, the chair reserved for the human rights activist Liu Xiaobo was left empty. Since it's not uncommon for civic rights awardees to be prevented from attending the ceremony, I did not pay any particular attention. Little did I know his absence struck closer to home than I imagined. The state propaganda machine sprang into action in the form of a morning assembly at my high school the next morning. Our headmaster was that certain that Liu has been a spy for the West. That diverged drastically from the spirit of truth-seeking promoted at my mind. And it sparked my critical thinking and thus guided me through cultural studies in universities and ultimately led me to assist in organizing the student strike, then the Umbrella Movement, and to partake in the first and the only negotiation with the government during the Umbrella Movement. I suppose anyone who loosely followed the news knew what happened in the late 2014. The Umbrella Movement displayed Hong Kong people's fervent pursuit for equality and democracy. And nevertheless, the truth is, we were not able to achieve any substantial reform in the electoral system. While to a certain degree, the seeds of civic movement was sown in the sterile political soil of Hong Kong, the Umbrella Movement was hardly a small step for Hong Kong society. Immediately after, the public stopped into confusion as to how to continue the democratic movement, and I believe that that question popped up in everyone's mind in this place. Some political groups have since then attempted to express their frustration through unsustainable violence. The question is this: the roadmap handed to us by the Chinese Communist Party doesn't work anymore. Under the growing mistrust towards the basic law and the one country, two system, who other avenues could Hong Kong people avail? To answer this question, a number of students, including myself and other public figures, came together to form Demosisto. The solution we propose is this: to substitute reintegration with self-determination, and to strengthen the connection between civic movements and the legislature, and to lead the next wave of Hong Kong democratic movement with nonviolent civic disobedience. It is our conviction that Hong Kong's democratization rests not only on Demo Sisto, but the general public of Hong Kong. We fast our faith in the Hong Kong people, and we will be honored to walk with them on the road to democracy and self-determination. Next, I will leave it to Joshua to explain the details of our plans in the future. Thank you very much.
Hi, I am Joshua Wong, and thank you for the invitation of FCC. After Nathan briefly revealed and shared some of his story in the previous 6 years, I would also like to share some of my story and my vision to Hong Kong. As you guys may know that now I'm the Secretary General of the new formed political party Demo Sisto, and I've involved in two large-scale Occupy action in the previous few years. But actually, I'm still a university student. I'm a year 2 student studying politics, and now I'm just 19 years old. What I hope to do is just use the next around 8 or 10 minutes to share in the past 5 or 6 years, how's my life being changed. In 2011, I'm just a high school student, 15 years old. During that year, most of my classmates or my peers, they are just focusing on their study or maybe playing sport or joining different clubs in the school. But for myself, I just asked myself a question. Being a Christian, if the Bible told us that we need to contribute to the society, care the poor, and also fight for the justice. So being a Christian, what should I do in the society to contribute more? So in 2010, I tried to involve in different rally or demonstration. And around 14 or 15 years old, I joined the June 4th candle night or the 1st of July rally just to be a normal participant. Some of my classmates just asked that, hey Joshua, why you need to join the rally? It's none of our business. Being a student, we could just focus on our study or play or have our own leisure time. It's not necessary to join this kind of radical things. Yeah, few years, 6 or 7 years ago, joining the June 4th event candle night, it's already the radical things. Yeah, 6 years ago, but the things have changed already. So during that moment, I just told my classmate or some of my friends, being a Hong Kongers, we're born in Hong Kong, we love Hong Kong, and we hope Hong Kong will have a better future. So actually, it's necessary for us to care about our society, no matter you are supporting which side. In 2011, after I become a normal participant in some of the rally or demonstration, the government would like to introduce the patriotic education school curriculum, named as National Education. It forced every primary and high school student to embrace the Communist Party of China. I remember 5 years ago, after some of the news report about this issue or this new policy, the traditional politician seems to not pay a lot of interest on it. Even the traditional teacher union, they might just think that, we will show our disagreement, but we can just through the press conference or organizing some forum and to raise people awareness, that's all. So 5 years ago, I realized that instead of rely on the traditional politician or the labor union leader, it's the time for the student to fight for our future. That's why I found Scholarism, the student activist group, in 2011. Through a lot of rally, demonstration, street promotion, in 2012, successfully, we have organized the high school student hunger strike and also the civil disobedience Occupy action with a 10-day assembly, and successfully forced the government to put aside the patriotic education to successfully protect our independence of mind and critical thinking for the student in Hong Kong. And after that, I've involved more with the activist group member Scorism will fight for universal suffrage, democracy, and also human rights. And in 2014, I think you guys know that we have successfully, through the class boycott and also the direct confrontational protests, we have generated the umbrella movement and continue to have a 79 days Occupy action. Unfortunately, after maybe 200,000 people join into the civil disobedience and umbrella movement, we gain nothing change. It's lucky that we raised the new generation political awareness. And also we gain the international community support to show the care and support on the human rights, freedom and democracy, those universal values. But the things that we face after 2014, after the end of umbrella movement, in 2015, actually, I faced some of the limitation for myself. During that year, I was not available to enter mainland China anymore, and I faced some of the blame or the criticize from the pro-Beijing newspaper, and even I remember in 2015, last year, I've been invited to Malaysia, I've invited by one of our NGO from Malaysia. And while I arrived at Malaysia airport, the government official claimed that I'm the troublemaker, and it forced me back to Hong Kong immediately. And I've been refused to enter Malaysia. Actually, emotionally, in 2015, I feel downhearted and defeated because after 79 days facing the charges and also the trial and the arrest, it seems nothing changed. And also, my parents need to change the mobile number because it faced a lot of junk call after the umbrella movement. And even my home address have been released on the internet. But I just have more reflection in 2015. From 15 years old, while I'm just a high school student, until 18 years old, I celebrate, the member in Scorism helped me to celebrate my 18 years old birthday and during the umbrella movement in Admiralty. And until last year, with the reflection, I just remind myself, actually, fight for democracy, autonomy, and human rights is a long-term battle. While actually, the activists in Hong Kong is facing the largest communist regime in the world. Even after the umbrella movement, we may feel downhearted and depressed, but it's the time for us to stand firm and stand up again to fight for the future. That's why we realize that it's the time for us to push forward the new position for ourselves and a new political movement. And that's why we decided to found the new political party, Demosisto, and push forward the self-determination. What I mean is actually, after the umbrella movement, of course, emotionally, I feel depressed or downhearted. And rationally, actually, we realize something and we learn a lesson in the umbrella movement. In the future, why we hope to fight for self-determination is because we realize about the end of one country, two system. After the white paper issue or the decision made by the Standing Committee of MPC in 31 of August 2 years ago, or after the Causeway Bay bookseller incident happened, it already proved that under the protection of basic law or one country, two system, actually the core value or the universal value of Hong Kong is moving backward. And actually, it's the time for us to think about the future of Hong Kong. What I mean is after the expiry date of Joint Declaration and the end of basic law. Why Hong Kong is different with mainland China? It's because we gained the protection and the promise under Joint Declaration. It promised that Hong Kong can have the 50 years unchanged policy to remain high degree autonomy and even achieve universal suffrage under the basic law. And the one country, two system seems to be a good system for Hong Kong. But the question is, what will be the future after the expiry date of the Joint Declaration? I mean in 2047. What I mean is, I born before the year of handover. I born in 1996. After I grow up, I realized that the handover of Hong Kong do not get the permission or the authorization from the public. I mean the Hong Kong people. It's just a decision made by the closed-door meeting of the representative from British and also China government. Hong Kong people can't involve or send any representative to decide the future of Hong Kong after 1997. So if in the last century we missed or we lost the chance or our right to decide our future, what we hope is in the future, of course, apart from fighting for universal suffrage and one person, one vote, I think for the new generation, especially for the post-19s, what we hope is also focus on the future problem in Hong Kong. We decide the handover of 1997 around 1984. About the future problem of Hong Kong after 2047, I think it might be handled around 2030. From 2016 to 2030, it just remained 10 to 15 or 16 years. So in the next 10 or 16 years, how the new generation can fight for the future would be the most important motivation or the significant reason for me and Nathan preparing to form the political party, and even Nathan is considering to run in the election. And I'm not available to run in election because I still can't reach the age limit of 21. Yeah. So in the future, what we hope is we can through a referendum to decide the sovereignty and also the constitution of Hong Kong after 2047. In the last century, if we lost the right of self-determination, I think it's the time for the new generation not only just focus on universal suffrage, but also fight for self-determination. People might ask that, fight for self-determination facing the China government. Can you ensure that you gain any possibility to reach or achieve self-determination? In this moment, I think we need to admit that we don't have enough bargaining power. But I just always remind myself, fight for democracy, we need to prepare for the worst, but the more and more important thing is we should be optimistic. I think social movement, political movement, fight for self-determination is just the process for us to turn something impossible to be possible. It's just a war, a battle, just like David versus Goliath. In the future, what I hope is, if I born before a year of handover, in 2047, I'm in middle age, around 51 years old. I just hope to ensure that our vision to Hong Kong is through a referendum and through a democratic procedure to let Hong Kong to achieve democracy and self-governance. It's a long-term battle for us. It's a long-term battle for the new generation in Hong Kong. But I believe that if we keep on, stand firm and fight for the future, finally, the new generation of Hong Kong can get back the future of our home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know it's a bit tight up here, but good to have you guys side by side. We have plenty time for questions and answers. There's a microphone running around the room. But if I can just start first with one quick question. I'm curious. You've been arrested. You've been part of the umbrella movement. You've engaged in huge debates, and now you've started a political party. Do you think Hong Kong should have another big civil disobedience movement like the umbrella movement to get the point across?
Yes, thanks for your question. And although we decided to form a political party, and maybe some of our members, including myself, would consider to run for electoral, but the crux of our establishment is we hope we could have power inside the council to assist our civil movement in the street. Because after the umbrella movement, I believe that a lot of people are like kind of frustrated about the Chinese government and also about maybe the pressure that we put in our movement. A lot of people may be curious about, is it possible to have changes relying on the civic movement? So that you can see that there's a lot of people turning to a more radical side, even a violent movement happened. But for me and for Joshua and for the Demosito, we insist to have a civic movement and mass movement because we believe that Hong Kong people could really make something change in the future. And as the umbrella movement demonstrated the power of non-violent resistance, but I believe that that's not the that's not the limitation of us. We could still make something more. In the umbrella movement, with only like maximum 200,000 people on the street, and the ideas of civic disobedience has not been spread through for the whole Hong Kong society. But if we move on, if we still continue to have non-violent resistance, and we could spread this message to a much larger Hong Kong people, then I believe that the changes could happen by having mass movement. And I believe that we are looking for another massive civic movement.
Hi, I'm David Tweed from Bloomberg. Could either of you explain exactly what you mean by self-determination? Does it cover what you were fighting for during Occupy, which was universal suffrage according to international understanding of what universal suffrage means? Is it something that could exist under the present one country, two systems, or is it something completely different?
Thanks for the question. We both have a consensus about the current difficulties of our political movement, which we don't have any agenda or common ground to move forward. After the umbrella movement, a lot of people considering the past format of the political movement in Hong Kong, which is following the pattern or the roadmap given by the central government, is not working. So a lot of people started to really examine the crux of Hong Kong's system, which is the lack of endorsement of one country, two system and the basic law. During the negotiation in 80s between the British government and the Chinese government, there was actually no participation from the Hong Kong people, and there was a very famous saying that the negotiation table is not three-legged, which means there's only places available for the British and the Chinese government. And the lack of endorsement from Hong Kong people led the lack of legitimacy of Hong Kong's government after 1997. And that's the crush of the whole system. So for self-determination, we aimed for fruitful examination of Hong Kong's system, which included one country, two system and the basic law. And ultimately, we hope that Hong Kong people could decide our future after 2047, which is the expiry date of basic law. And we don't want to repeat the same mistake that we have made in 1997, which Hong Kong people should have endorsement and should have participation in the discussion of Hong Kong's future sovereignty. And so that I believe that the universal suffrage is definitely what we are fighting for. And we are fighting for a larger picture, which is the whole system of Hong Kong. And that's the very crutch ideas of self-determination.
One point I would like to add about this question. As we know that Hong Kong originally in the last century is a British colony. However, usually under the UN Charter, being a colony in the decolonizational process, actually the colony can ensure the right of self-determination to through a referendum to decide the sovereignty and also the constitution and the degree of autonomy in the process. However, what we have realized is in 1971, the People's Republic of China (PRC) entered UN, and a year later, in 1972, they cancel out Hong Kong from the list of colony. So we lose the right of self-determination. It's the right that originally we can gain in the last century. In this moment or in the future, What we hope is just push forward the self-determination to gain back the right that originally we should gain in the last century.
Hi, my name is Steve Vines. Joshua, you said in your speech this is a battle of David versus Goliath. So I wonder if either of you could address the criticism that you've had for forming a new political party, for being among the forces, for example, that declined to take part in the June 4th commemoration, whether in this battle between David and Goliath, all you're doing is dividing David, making David an even smaller person because the forces of the pro-democracy movement become more separate.
I think actually Nathan and I and Demosisto have attended the June 4th candle night. We are not the localist group that refuse or reject to keep our concern and support to the human rights movement in mainland China. Actually, after the umbrella movement, we need to admit that we faced the decentralizational protests about in the civil society. The David has been divided, as you mentioned. So what we hope to do is we hope to push forward to take a progressive stand, just like pushing forward the self-determination, but also rely and also follow our basic principle. Even we fight for self-determination, pushing forward the referendum, it doesn't mean that the human rights movement or the issue or the incident in mainland China do not relate to Hong Kong. So we still show our support and also join the candlelight last month, few weeks before.
The reason why David was united just before the umbrella movement was at that moment of time we still have a consensus about how the democratic movement goes, which was following the agenda set by the central government. But after the umbrella movement, it is proven that this road cannot work. So I believe that the decentralized and the fragmentation of nowadays Hong Kong political spectrum is because we are looking for a new way out, and people have different agenda about it. And for us, we push forward self-determination, and we would like to be inclusive. We would like to have more endorsement and support from the traditional pan-democrats. I believe that nowadays Hong Kong people, they're searching for a new way out instead of just repeating what you have done before the umbrella movement. So that I believe that in the future, David could be united once again. But I believe that we need help from the mass public and from all of you, which when we push forward a new agenda set by ourselves to target the 2047 problems, and we could lay our groundwork from now on, then we could have our own agenda, and once it is the consensus of democratic camp, the David could be united once again.
We have a question over here, at table 2.
Thanks. Hi, Ben Bland from the Financial Times. You've both spoken a lot about your political concerns for Hong Kong's future, but it seems the city is facing a much more immediate economic challenge. The government's recently warned that Hong Kong is facing the worst economic situation for 20 years, and that comes at a time when obviously many Hong Kongers are already worried about social inequality, low wages, difficulties getting good jobs. So how worried are you both about the economic outlook for Hong Kong? And I know it's early days, but does your party yet have any proposals for what to do about the economic challenges facing Hong Kong? Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. I believe that Hong Kong in the future should revive to once again be the world city instead of just a small city inside China. For the past 10 years, we relied on Chinese economic heavily, and the result is our uniqueness is being decreased, and our economic status are deeply related to China's economic situation. And just a few months ago, some the credit status of Hong Kong are being lowered by a lot of different rating institutions, because we are in a situation that we have a really tight connection with the mainland China. So I believe that for Hong Kong's economic in the future, we should be more independent, and we should not rely too heavily with mainland China, and we should develop our own uniqueness on top of what we have on our hand. For example, we have a very strong cultural industry in the past. Can we revive it? Or we have a strong international financial market instead of just targeting China's market. So could we make something more out of it? I believe that that's really important for us.
Another question at table 2.
Thank you. I'm Janelino from the Australian Consulate. I'm wondering if you could share with us your strategy for rebuilding the consensus that you refer to create a mass civil movement, particularly given that you've got, as you mentioned, a number of groups who are rejecting the sort of peaceful civil disobedience route in favour of perhaps more violent means. And on the other hand, you also have the central government undoubtedly stepping up its campaign to persuade Hong Kong people that they should go a different path. So I'm wondering if you could share your strategy for generating your civil movement. Thank you.
After the umbrella movement, a lot of the activist group, they claim that non-violence is meaningless. It's not useful anymore, because from their experience, but also it's true, after the peaceful umbrella movement, we gain nothing change. We still remain only 1,200 pro-Beijing elites or tycoons can vote in the chief executive election. But from my observation or my analysis, even people use violence in the fishball revolution a few months ago, in the February, during the Chinese New Year. Even they have just thrown the bricks, burn the rubbish bin, or even beat the police. After the day or after the end of fishball revolution, they still gain nothing change. And in the next year, March, we are still only gain 1,200 people can vote in the chief executive election. So what I mean is, if after the umbrella movement, a lot of the localists, they claim that non-violence is meaningless, it's not useful anymore. I think compare the results of fishbowl revolution and the umbrella movement, it already explained that it's not the problem that whether you are radical or not, or don't think that using violence can ensure you can reach the goal. Because no matter you are from the side of the localists or you are the side from the pandems, actually the most serious limitation that we face is we don't have enough bargaining power. So refer to your question, how can we gain the consensus, or even actually the first goal for Demosisto or for Nathan and I, what we hope is to push forward self-determination and focusing on the future problem of Hong Kong after 2047 could be the majority consensus of the non-establishment camp. But how to lobby or to push forward other political party to agree on our agenda or agree on our idea is not easy things in this moment. But what I believe is, if we can successfully trigger and to gain more support in the Hong Kong people, even those traditional political party, they still need to refer to the survey conduct or the opinion poll. And I think after the Legislative Council election in this September, I think it will show the result for the traditional politician or the traditional pandems is necessary for them to really follow or to find a new road towards to fight for democracy.
And I believe that our strategy is we need to have our long-term and detailed strategic plans for our democratic movement. And that's the thing I've learned from the campaign of occupying Central. Because back into the 2013, the early 2013, when Benny Tai issued an article in the newspaper talking about occupying Central, he developed a lot of stages for the whole movement, including deliberation days and like pop votings, and then to reach like consensus, and then to reach massive understanding to his campaign, and then to achieve like one of the largest nonviolent resistance in Hong Kong's history. We can see that we have to build up our pressure step by step, and we need to have our own agenda in our democratic movement other than the one given by the central government. So that's the reason why we are targeting 24/7, because that's one of the turning point of Hong Kong's history. And if the discussion, the negotiation of between the governments about the 2047 problems, it will be started in the year of 2013. Then 2030, sorry. Then we still have 14 years of planning to do so. And we could develop our own mass of public and support. And the thing that we propose in the next year, the chief executive election, we propose like a civic referendum from the mass public to ensure that there's a lot of backup about us fighting for the rights of self-determination of Hong Kong people. And then we wish to push forward a lot of different Hong Kong chapters about talking about the vision after 24/7 and things like this. So we need to have our own plans, and we need to build up our pressure step by step. And we start our discussion of 24/7 from now on, and then to reach the highest pressure around 2013. And that's our lesson learned from Occupy Central, and that's our strategy.
Yeah, 2 points. Sorry, I would still like to add is I remember around 3 years ago, while Benny Tai wrote the article and and said that it's the time for us to organize the civil disobedience. At the first stage, actually, those traditional legislators, they do not really show their support on the Occupy Central movement. But after the Liberation Day, it gained more of the massive understanding and the general public support. Those political parties start to show their support, contribute more, and involve in the Occupy Central with love and peace movement. So I think from the lesson in the previous year, we will know that if we can gain the support from the general public and also the massive understanding, it's easy to push forward those political parties to agree on a more progressive agenda. And I would also like to explain that why it's necessary for us to have our own agenda. Actually, after handovers, we have 3 stages to fight for democracy. In the first stage, we fight for achieving universal suffrage in 2007, because before the handover, Beijing promised to allowing Hong Kong people to have universal suffrage in 2007. However, around 2005, Beijing broke the promise. So we turn to the second stage, because Beijing claimed that they broke the promise to implement universal suffrage in 2007, and they promised again to allowing Hong Kong people to achieve universal suffrage in 2012. So we turn to the second stage, and every legislator say that, oh, we will fight for universal suffrage and to achieve in 2012. However, the things repeat again. Beijing broke the promise and claimed that, oh, actually we will be it's necessary for us to delay the timetable or schedule. So why don't we implement universal suffrage in 2017? So the movement Fight for Democracy turned to the third stage. A few years ago, we start to fight for implementing universal suffrage in 2017. However, 2 years ago, or the last year, Beijing still broke the promise. After the handover, we repeat this process or this cycle for 3 times already. If we do not want to repeat for the 4th time, it's a time for us to have the own agenda, our own timetable, and their own schedule for Hong Kong people fight for democracy, instead of just rely on the promise made by the Beijing government. That's the reason that why we hope to push forward the new political agenda of self-determination.
We have time for just one more question. We'll take it from the front here.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Monks. You have explained that holding a referendum is very central to your plans. There was a referendum last week in Britain, and some people are questioning whether a referendum, a binary in, out, yes, no, is the way to handle issues of great complexity. I'd be interested in your thoughts on how such a referendum could be conducted to settle the very complex matters you're referring to.
I agree that having such a decision is a very complex one. And that's the reason why when we are talking about 2047 issue, then we have to start now, because now is 2016, and we still have 30 years to go on. And if the negotiations start in 2013, then we still have around 14 to 15 years to talk about this issue. So I believe that facing such a complex matter, we need to have plenty of time to let different camps to do their lobbying and to do their education towards different people. So that I believe that it is a very serious concern. And one point I would like to add is that the younger generation should have more conscious about what's going on in the society, and they should express their opinion by actions, because we see that from the referendum, the age group 18 to 25, their voting rates is the lowest among different age groups. Maybe it's because they don't really care about it, or they thought they just express their opinion in the internet worth or is like useful. But it is very important for you to transfer your ideas into actions, whether to vote or to rally or to do anything that could support your political stance. And that's one thing I would like to add, is that for the younger generation, we should stand up and stand firm against what is suppressing us, and we should fight for our notions or our beliefs very firm.
I think we're going to end it on that very interesting note. Nathan and Joshua, thank you very much for coming to the club today. Thank you, everyone, for coming to attend. We do have a small gift from the FCC, ties. A very traditional, slightly old-fashioned gift, but we hope to see you wear them one day. And thank you very much for coming today.